after the Nepalese Gen Z made quite the stir this year by removing their government over corruption, nepotism and joblessness, memes on social media compared them with Indian youngsters, with many saying the Indian Gen Z wasn't politically conscious enough. But is that really true? Not so politically conscious? That's debatable, and I will be delving into what Gen Z of India really care about. But before that, it's worth noting that India's netas are already eyeing the nearly 38 crore Gen Z, roughly 40% of the population, as a key voting bloc. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi appealed to them during the Vote Chori press conference.
And I want the young people of India, Gen Z, to understand this clearly, because this is about your future. What is being done is being taken from you. You are being stolen from, your future is being destroyed. So it's important that you listen and you watch.
हमारे जैन जी नए समाधान दे रहे हैं.
Home Minister Amit Shah also shared his take on Gen Z when he said, India is not Nepal. Our democratic roots are very strong. I don't think a Gen Z protest is possible here. But India's Gen Z did get angry several times in 2025, and I'm going to look at some of the issues that drew them to the streets almost every month of the year. Girls at CMR Engineering College near Hyderabad poured out onto the road late at night, chanting, "We want justice," and refusing to go back inside. The trigger, they alleged, was a mobile phone found planted in the bathroom ventilation duct of the women's hostel, with rumors quickly spreading that it contained hundreds of secretly recorded washroom videos of girl students supposedly shot by members of the mess and hostel staff. As word traveled through WhatsApp groups and corridors, fear turned into fury. Hostel residents accused the management of ignoring earlier complaints about safety, and parents rushed to the campus demanding answers. The protest carried on past midnight and into the next day, forcing the police to step in. Officers detained several mess workers, seized at least 11 mobile phones for forensic checks, and eventually registered a case after the students insisted that the matter be treated as more than just disciplinary action. Although investigators later said they did not immediately find explicit videos on the seized devices and released the suspects after questioning, students framed the episode as part of a larger pattern of neglect and intimidation in which, as one parent put it, daughters were too scared to complain because they feared their marks would be deducted if they spoke out. The Jadavpur University turned into a flashpoint of campus politics and state university tensions as protest over student union elections spiraled into full-blown confrontation with the West Bengal government. On 1st March, left-affiliated student groups like SFI and ISA blocked the convoy of Education Minister Brut Basu inside the campus, demanding that long-pending students' union polls be held and accusing the state of trying to depoliticize universities. In the chaos that followed, students allegedly smashed the minister's car's windshield, while they in turn accused his vehicle of running over a protester, first-year student Indranuj Roy, who was hospitalized with injuries. The clash spilled out of the gates. Traffic was blocked at key crossings in Kolkata as SFI called a statewide strike in colleges and universities. The Trinamool Congress hit back with its own rally condemning an attack on the minister, and days of sit-ins and gheraos on campus built into a wider standoff over police presence, with students refusing talks until plainclothes officers left the university. The Calcutta High Court criticized Kolkata police, saying they conducted a one-sided investigation into the Jadavpur University incident. Justice Tirthankar Ghosh questioned both an apparent intelligence failure and whether the minister ignored any intelligence advice while visiting the campus, and noted that while multiple complaints were filed, only those against students were turned into FIRs. Later the same month, the High Court directed the university to restrict invitations for functions or seminars to academicians only. Meanwhile, the police registered an FIR against Minister Basu on the complaint of injured student Indranuj Roy. The University of Hyderabad's eastern fringe turned into a front line as students and teachers tried to block earth movers and police from entering a 400-acre tract of rocky, scrubby forest at Kancha Gachibauli that they insist has always been part of their campus. The immediate trigger was the Telangana government's move to clear and auction this land for an IT park and development projects. Students opposed bulldozers tearing through what they described as a biodiverse green buffer home to peacocks, deer, and porcupines. They boycotted classes from 1st April, staged sit-ins at the main gate, and demanded that the police and machinery be withdrawn, the land formally registered in University of Hyderabad's name, and all Executive Council minutes on the issue made public. As videos of fleeting animals and felled trees went viral, the dispute escalated into a national case. The Telangana High Court first ordered a halt to clearing work, and then the Supreme Court, hearing a plea by environmental group Vata Foundation, chastised the state for erasing roughly 100 acres of forest without permission. It directed the wildlife warden to protect affected species and warned senior officials of possible jail time unless they produced a concrete plan to restore the degraded land. By the time of publishing this report, excavation was stayed while courts were examining whether the area should get deemed forest or even national park protection, while the state government insisted it had not taken an inch of University of Hyderabad's notified land. Primary focus of student protests in India was on alleged irregularities and mismanagement in national examinations, specifically the NEET and UGC NET issues. Students from the National Students Union of India, which is the Congress Party's student wing, held a protest on 20th June outside the Delhi home of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan to complain about the exam process. They were pretty angry about alleged problems and were demanding an investigation. Before the police took them into custody, the protesters showed their frustration by throwing money up in the air. The anger that had been simmering since the scandal-ridden 2024 NEET UG exam spilled back onto the streets as students and aspirants marched, sat on dharna, and faced police barricades in Delhi, Patna, Lucknow, and other cities, accusing the National Testing Agency of presiding over a rigged medical entrance system. They had three main demands. First, scrap the current NEET UG 2025 results right away. Second, completely shut down or seriously overhaul the National Testing Agency. And third, get the Supreme Court to look into the whole mess of leaks and corruption. The police often responded with detentions and lathi charges that became viral protest visuals. The outcome so far has been that the centre notified a new anti-paper leak law and told courts it had cancelled grace marks for some students and ordered CBI probes in leak-hit states. The Supreme Court refused blanket retests for NEET UG 2025, limiting relief to targeted corrections and telling petitioners it could not append an all-India exam at this stage, leaving many protesters feeling that, despite new laws and inquiries, the structural distrust around NEET remained unresolved. Besides NEET UG, the Staff Selection Commission exams became a major point of contention with students. The SSC is a body which helps aspirants get government jobs of two kinds: non-gazetted, meaning positions that are not published in the Official Journal of India, and non-technical. These roles span a range of positions like clerks, inspectors, junior engineers, researchers, data processing assistants, proofreaders, among others. These exams take place annually and lakhs of students appear every year. But when the SSC exams took place this year from 24th July to 1st August, protests broke out. Aspirants raised issues with the way the exam was conducted, such as computers crashing, mouse not working, exam centers being allocated too far away, like a Jaipur student being assigned a center in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and manhandling by security staff at the centers, among other things. Thousands of students and teachers descended on the streets across the country, with many converging in the national capital to make their voices heard. But they were met with the police's lathis and detention. Viral videos showed the police using lathis, forcing protesters into vans and detaining them, with some popular faces such as Neetu ma'am, who teaches English, and Abhinay sir appearing among those detained.
हम सिर्फ ये चाहते हैं कि जो लूप होल सभी एग्जामिनेशन में चल रहे हैं, हाल फिलहाल में जो एसएससी में हुआ है, ठीक है, जो घोटाला हुआ है या फिर जो उनकी जो जितना भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर वो ठीक से काम नहीं कर रहा, हम ये चाह रहे हैं कि वो ठीक हो जाए, बस इतनी सी हमारी डिमांड है।
ये सरकार बच्चों पर लाठी चलाना बंद करे।
हम टीचर्स ये बिल्कुल नहीं चाहते हैं कि हम यहाँ पर रोज खड़े होकर धरना दें। हम भी चाहते हैं मामला शांत हो, बच्चे पढ़ाई करें और हम भी अपनी पढ़ाई करवाएं और वो जाए अपना भविष्य बनाए।
The The protests this year erupted over the SSC's Selection Post Phase 13 examination, which was to fill 2,423 vacancies across 365 post categories. The protesters alleged that the mismanagement largely took place due to a new exam vendor. SSC Chairman S. Gopal Krishnan told India Today, "This is the first time we have changed agencies and hence some students faced issues. Some had to travel far because larger centers are not available in every city, while some cities only have smaller centers. We will resolve this in future exams." Secondly, in 2 locations the exam was cancelled due to a security lapse. However, we reconducted the test at those locations on the same day. The long simmering agitation in Ladakh for statehood and 6th schedule protection burst into its bloodiest phase yet as a peaceful hunger strike led by climate activist Sonam Wangchuk tipped over into street violence in Leh. Sonam and a core group spent weeks camping out in the freezing cold. They were demanding that the central government follow through on earlier promises: constitutional protection for Ladakh, setting up a public service commission, and giving Leh and Kargil their own separate seats in the Lok Sabha. Protesters demanded full statehood and strong constitutional safeguards to protect their land, jobs, and political voice after the region was made a union territory. Anger exploded when 2 fasters were rushed to hospital, and the youth wing of the Leh Apex body called for a shutdown that quickly saw crowds torch vehicles, attack the local BJP office, and clash with police. By the evening of 24th September, 4 people were dead, dozens injured, and Leh was under curfew and internet shutdown, prompting Sonam to abruptly end his 15-day fast and plead with supporters to stop the violence even as authorities invoked prohibitory orders and days later detained him under the National Security Act. The Leh Apex body and Kargil Democratic Alliance first boycotted talks scheduled with the centre's high-powered committee on 6th October to protest police firing. But after the Home Ministry ordered a judicial probe into the 24th September killings, civil society groups agreed to return to the table on 22nd October, and by December, Ladakhi leaders had submitted a detailed draft demanding statehood, 6th schedule status, land protections, and 2 Lok Sabha seats, though no final political settlement had been announced by this time. The same month, students at one of the only 2 central universities in Assam, Tezpur University, accused the administration of disrespecting public mourning for beloved Assamese singer Zubeen Garg. A heated exchange with the Vice-Chancellor, Shambhunath Singh, followed by his abrupt absence from campus, opened the floodgates for long-whispered complaints about corruption, financial irregularities, environmental violations, and crumbling hostel and research facilities. Students, teachers, and non-teaching staff came together to protest under the banner of Tezpur University United Forum. Through October and November, protests escalated from candle tributes and black-clad marches to an academic shutdown, blocking the main gate, cancelling end-semester exams, and even staging a separate women-led protest against what they called discriminatory hostel curfews that treated female students as if they needed surveillance rather than safety. The protests did not let up by December, even though at least 2 high-level central government teams had visited the university. The Punjab University campus in Chandigarh morphed into a barricaded protest site over who gets to control the university's future. After a 30th October notification from the centre to restructure PU's Senate and make it more national sparked a backlash and partial rollback, students and teachers under the Punjab University Bachao Morcha demanded that long-pending Senate elections be held under the old structure with full representation from Punjab and without curbs on the university's federal character. As thousands of students, farmer union leaders and alumni converged on the campus, police sealed borders with Mohali, threw up multiple barricades, and eventually resorted to lathi charge when protesters broke through gates and clashed with security. By late November, with exams postponed and a 17-day sit-in outside the Vice-Chancellor's office still on, the VC sent a draft election schedule to Chancellor and Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. The official protests were over, but the students warned that if the Chancellor stalled on the notification or tried to bring back the restructuring plan, the PU Bachao crew would be right back on the streets. The same month, protests erupted in VIT Bhopal over jaundice cases, dirty water, and hostel rules. Rumors about 3 students dying due to jaundice fueled the protests. The college said 2 students had died, but not due to jaundice. When videos surfaced of security staff and wardens allegedly slapping and beating first years during a peaceful demonstration, anger spilled over. Thousands of mostly B.Tech students poured out in hoodies and masks, broke hostel gates, smashed glass and set fire to vehicles including a university bus, an ambulance and cars near the Chancellor's residence as police from multiple stations rushed in to regain control. By morning, VIT had declared an immediate shutdown, sending almost 10,000 to 12,000 students home and cancelling classes till early December. The Madhya Pradesh government ordered health tests of water and food, issued a show-cause notice to the institute and set up a 3-member inquiry. The probe found that the college allegedly tried to cover up the jaundice outbreak. The committee report said the hostel mess service are extremely unsatisfactory and the quality of food and refreshments has received largely negative feedback from most hostel residents. While this unfolded in MP, Delhi saw protests over air pollution. As Delhi's air turned into a thick metallic haze and AQI readings rose to severe and hazardous categories for days on end, the city's frustration spilled out onto the streets in a wave of citizen-led protests. The protests turned a shade darker on 23rd November when a march under the banner of the Delhi Coordination Committee for Clean Air clashed with police near India Gate. Police officers said some demonstrators used chili spray on them and 22 to 23 students and activists were hauled into judicial custody for an unauthorized gathering. In mid-December 2025, the usually quiet stretch outside the Uttar Pradesh Public Service Commission office in Prayagraj turned into a sea of placards and backpacks as civil services aspirants sat on dharna accusing UP Public Service Commission of opaque and unfair recruitment. They demanded exam transparency after past paper leaks and unfair results in review officer or assistant review officer and provincial civil services exams. They sought public answer keys, cut-offs and CBI probes, citing Allahabad High Court orders on merit lists. Around 300 personnel from the RAF, PAC and local police were brought in to keep things under control. They put up barricades and used drones to keep an eye on the situation. At least 200 students were present at the protest site. From the Quit India movement, which was powered by students and young activists, to the JP movement, largely driven by India's youth that challenged corruption and authoritarian rule and ultimately led to the emergency being lifted, from the Assam movement that led to the Assam Accord, to the more recent anti-corruption movement of 2011, the Nirbhaya protests that reshaped the conversation on women's safety, and the anti-CAA protests, young Indians have repeatedly stepped forward to push the country toward change. And this time again, the generation that's usually called unserious was seriously standing on business. Fairness in competitive exams, women's safety and environment were among the key issues that Indian Gen Z rallied for. While these became headlines, perhaps there were other issues that didn't get the spotlight. Write to us in the comments if you'd like to highlight issues that didn't get the attention they deserved. I am Hamna Hissam Siddiqui and I bring you the news of the week with Brut.